Hello again, Professor Seraphina here. Now, I think we should talk a little bit about deontological and or non-consequentialist theories of morality. And the big one here is Immanuel Kant's deontology. And it's often broken down, or should I say, summarized down to what's called the categorical imperative. The categorical imperative essentially says for us to act according to a maxim which we would have to become a universal law. So, what does all that mean? He didn't always talk in the clearest way. So, universal law, right? Universal means everything, everyone, everywhere. And law, of course, is something that would apply to us all. Something good, bad, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, for everyone, all over. So a universal law. Act according to a maxim, which we would have become a universal law. So maxim is a type of statement or principle statement on which we found a type of ethic or virtue or moral behavior. And so we would think about something, say, that we wanted to do. Maybe you want to steal a case of coffee cups in the office at work, and you're trying to think of a way that maybe you could get away with doing it. So if you stop and reflect on what you're thinking about doing, and ask yourself, would this be morally acceptable? Would I accept it if I had to be in charge of everything or something to that effect? Would I be accepting of this principle or maxim or behavior? And if you say no, that you would not want other people to do this, you would not want everyone to do this in all cases, everywhere, no matter what, then you yourself can't do it. So act according to that maxim. I should not steal boxes of coffee cups, pens, paper, whatever, from the office at work. And neither should anyone else, right? Therefore, he has just now established or created a universal principle. Not a law per se, but a universal principle that then theoretically could be applied to everyone. And this is the essence of Kantian moral theory. And of course there are complications to it, and one of the factors of his work is to always tell the truth. That truth is a universal maxim. Telling the truth is universal. And lying is universally wrong or immoral even. And a classic example, which is rather problematic in its own way, is the case of having someone run up to your door and need to be hidden away by you as there's a murderer or serial killer out to get them, and they have nowhere else to go, no place to hide. So you, as an ethical human being, like, oh my gosh, yes, I would love to hide you. I don't want anyone to get killed, right? And the problem is, this person is now hidden in your house, and the killer comes up to your door, as all killers always do, right? And knocks on your door. Hey, have you seen this guy? I've been looking for him. He has evil intentions in his eyes. You can tell. You can feel it. He has negative, dark energy, right? So you don't want to have anything to do with this guy. But by principle, you cannot tell a lie. So if you're housing this guy to keep him from getting murdered, now you also can't tell a lie, so you have to tell the killer that he's in your house. Uh-oh. So now you have this question of, well, which is worse, to allow this guy to get killed or to lie? And hopefully we'd all say allowing this guy to get killed would be worse than just telling a lie. We could tell a lie to save someone's life. But for Kantian ethics, this just doesn't work, because if we're free to tell a lie in one sense, in some place, for some particular reason, that means we're allowed to lie in all cases, everywhere, for any other particular reason. And that, just in general, is not what people accept, right? And the idea for Kant is to look at trying to figure out morality in an ethical way of life without depending upon religious tradition or custom or any other kind of tradition that's been passed down to tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, these kind of things. And there are definitely problems with it. One of the problems, as you could see, is this kind of, what about particular circumstances where I'm lying to save someone's life? Imagine yourself living in Germany during World War II, and you're a decent human being, you're ethical, maybe even religious, and trying to live by that, or whatever moral principles that you have, or just by nature of your character and your virtues. You don't want to see someone else get harmed, especially murdered. And let's say, yeah, a very similar example, say you have the opportunity to save a family of Jews by hiding them away in whatever means you have necessary, or have available, should I say. And this is rare in this case, and you don't always have an opportunity to save people's lives, especially during this regime. And there are also like Gestapo's troops or soldiers or cops, if you want to, coming after this family that you see. So you, very ethically, morally, as a human being, tuck them away because you know these Gestapo are out to murder this family simply because of their religion. So they come to your door now, guns and everything. What do you do now? We saw a family of Jews running through the neighborhood, and someone said they come to your door. We're going to find out. If you lie to the Nazis, then you will end up being, at least in Kantian ethics and several others, you would also be taking part in the murder. You would be slightly responsible for that murder, or murders. Now, if you lie, then you're breaking this principle of lying being wrong or bad in every scenario. Then you kind of have a situationalist ethics. What do you do in particular circumstances? And also a question about intentionality. What is your intention behind it? Is your intention to help someone stay alive? Or, like for the Nazis example, their intention is to kill people. There's the two different intentions. Now, the Nazis might even argue in their case that they're doing an ethical deed because it's for the Führer and the state, right? And these are the new principles that have come into power. But here's where philosophers like Kant and everyone else, stops. Hey, let's take a break and think about what's going on here. Reevaluate this situation, because let's take it down to the most fundamental level. And if you're religious, this is one of the first things that happens in the Bible, right? Cain kills Abel. We could discuss all of that and such in a different place. But my point is this idea of life itself, not wanting to be murdered, not wanting to die, not wanting to be harmed. So boil it all down to the very basic, that one thing, right? Nobody wants to die, right? Everyone wants to stay alive. I know I like to breathe, so I'm assuming everyone else does too. And think about the categorical imperative in that sense there. Would I be okay with anyone, myself or anyone else, killing someone in whatever circumstances, regardless? Because if you think about it, this is very similar to the golden rule, if not just a mirror image of it, maybe even somewhat of a parody, but maybe my own criticism there, which says, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Like, if you don't want it done to you, don't do it to anyone else, right? So if you wouldn't want anyone murdering you, then you're kind of obligated, duty-bound, to not kill anyone else. And on a larger scale, you should even work to try to make sure no one does get killed, no one does get harmed. And this is where ethics goes into that social and political side of things. It's extended out beyond what myself as the individual chooses to do or not. Like, what should we all do? And there is some value in Kant's theory, because we all kind of fundamentally believe that, I think, and I hope, that all of us have the same rights, or should have the same rights. And rights are actually given, and this is why a lot of groups of people and others, and not just recently, but all through history, have had to fight for their rights. Fight for basic things that everyone else had, and because of discrimination, because of racism, because of certain power dynamics, like the time that it was legal to have slaves, right? This is no longer this time, but there are effects from that, and we have to re-examine what we're doing and thinking about how to rearrange society. So really it's a process as we go forward in time. Way back, those societies weren't exactly so nice to each other all the time, if any time. So one of the criticisms of Kant is a kind of absolutism, like it has to be this differentiation between what is moral and immoral or amoral in an action in particular circumstances with particular scenarios. Like, I don't think anyone would say yes to, would you kill the baby, right? None of us just think that that's okay. That's not okay, right? Obviously we watch the news and hear these horror stories, so someone might think it's okay, but generally, no, we don't think this is okay. This is not okay. So, we in general say this, and we in general should promote this, right? But what happens in a particular circumstance? It's a hypothetical situation, which is what philosophy always does. What about this? Let's put it into question. Let's ask it a different way. What if the baby in question, for you to, like, say, go back in time, would you kill this baby if you were able to? What if that baby was Adolf Hitler, or Benito Mussolini, or Pol Pot, or one of these other horrible dictators, or even one of these murderous cult leaders, or just a terrible warmonger out there, serial killers, rapists, child molesters, any other kind of abusive people. Like, most people I've talked to over the years say that if XYZ happened, and they had the power to, that they might X, Y, D to someone. You can fill in the blank or use your imagination as to what they might do to other people who have harmed themselves or their loved ones. I've never thought this is particularly right, though. This is kind of the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, ancient model. And really this just plays on a type of vendetta type thinking. And like in the mafia, I've studied the mafia when I was a teenager, among other things. And what you see is this historical trajectory. It's just a cycle that vendettas start by somebody on one side murdering, assassinating someone on the other side, one of the other families or clans or bosses, whatever. And so then that side, that party, takes the vendetta out on someone else on this side. This is back and forth. You kill me, I kill you, back and forth, back and forth. We also see this in the perpetuation of wars in the Middle East. Wars have been going on there for tens of thousands of years for some reason. And it's horrible, and if you think psychologically, it's not just a historical thing, but trauma is passed down again and again and again. And if you're just caught in this kind of cycle, and then you're traumatized over and over, it's just gonna get worse. So these things escalate. But my point is that this is not really a moral way to act, right? These vendettas carrying out over and over. So never agreed with that way of thinking, and by that I never, and still don't, believe in the death penalty. Not saying that I don't believe in capital punishment. I think there's a difference in punishment and the death penalty, and the whole point is, it's kind of hypocritical if we say killing people is immoral and wrong and evil, and then if someone kills people, we, the state, the country, whatever, kills that person. I know people have different opinions, people have different arguments about this. I'm just trying to put it in the way that I think, and I've always kind of thought this way, that we're kind of doing the same thing that we're punishing someone else for in the very same way, and it's kind of like this repeated fashion. So I always thought there should be a different way. How do we determine that? So that's still being worked on, right? But the deontological method does have this problem when you try to apply it universally, which is the whole ground it's built upon. This idea that it should be for everyone, everywhere, every situation. And I'm not arguing a cultural relativism. I do believe that people in the ancient world, and I do have my own personal trauma, I will admit, from the stuff that's written in the Bible and beliefs that sprouted from that, and certain evangelical and fundamentalist denominations of Protestant Christianity. That doesn't affect my openness to spirituality or religion with anyone else. It's just kind of myself, of course, but this trauma is very impactful, and the stories that are there are very violent, very discriminatory, and I'm not making judgments, just making observations. That this, just read it as it is, you see it. But this kind of, this for that, goes back in the biblical tradition as well, all the way back to Hammurabi and the moral code that he wrote, which stuff in Leviticus is based on ultimately. But say you were in a position where you wanted to save someone's life, maybe you had to kill someone. You see a little bit of this with consequentialists, in particular utilitarians. And I'm sure you've all seen a cartoon or a little joke about the trolley cart problem. You know, you have to make a decision, but in each decision, A or B, someone is still going to die. Now, whether it's one person on one track or 3, 5, 10 on the other, right? Which one is, I guess, less amoral and the most moral? That's like the best out of two evils kind of thing. So then, if you don't believe in murder, you don't believe in killing, you don't believe in allowing this stuff to happen, right, now you have a real life situation where someone actually has to die, and then you have to figure it out. How do you do that? That's why I kind of lean toward virtue ethics, and it's basically back down to that ethical level, the personal, individual, sovereign person, and their character and their virtues, because at the end of the day, it's still you and what you do that matters. So that's just one criticism of many, but I think if you throw out the universality of Kant's theory, then you open up a world of other problems already. The other part is the absolutism, that it's like so rigid and solid, like you see in the moral principles, or what is really a bunch of legal doctrines for the time in Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and such. Pages after pages after pages of what to do, what not to do. Different topic, different class, but very interesting stuff there too. My favorite philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, criticized Kant for the universality bit. He was, some people criticize as being a moral relativist, but I, in my 40 and growing years of wrestling with, grappling with, and reading and trying to digest Nietzsche, I don't see them as an amoralist. He did say he was an immoralist, but you'll learn more about that. However, he called Kant a moral spider of sorts. Like, you get caught in his web of all this entangled language about abstract thinking and where morality should be and all that. Excuse me. It's not to say that he was completely critical of his ideas in general, or the idea that there should be morality. It was this categorical imperative, these notions of universality, and like a historicism to things too. And we know Nietzsche did his genealogy, where he went back and put pieces together about the origins of certain moral and ethical theories, and Beyond Good and Evil, and other works of his. So I guess the bottom line would be certain situations call for different actions in a general sense, and I think most people are moral already in a general sense. Like people say, people might be inherently evil or wicked or something, but if you look around the world, not a lot of wickedness is going on. So, but there are certain circumstances still. These are iffy questions, and still trying to figure out solutions, the best solutions. Till next time.